Hello and welcome to the Future of Dogs podcast, a place for the whole dog world to come together and ask the big why and what if questions that will shape the dogs of the future. Join me, Hannah Molloy, dog behaviourist and body language expert, as we chat to some of the world's most groundbreaking professionals intent on enriching and evolving the future for dogs. This series is sponsored by Amplified Behaviour, my online video school where you can find quality dog behaviour and training advice at a fraction of the price, because I believe everyone should be able to afford the knowledge that they need to give their dogs the best life possible. Let's jump in to the next episode. Thanks for joining us. It's great to have you here for another filling and delicious slice of future-shaping discussion on the future of dogs. This episode is titled The Future of Dog Rescue, Part 1, and I am joined today by two guests who are passionately and powerfully challenging the status quo in the rescue world by calling for regulation. It may surprise you to know that the field of animal rescue in the UK, like many other areas including dog training and grooming and pet care, is completely unregulated, meaning anyone can set up a rescue centre, which is a well-meaning open door that has recently been shown to have some dire consequences for our four-legged friends. And here to tell us all about it, we have policymaker and Member of Parliament for Basildon and Billericay, the Right Honourable Richard Holden, and grassroots rescue warrior, campaigner and director of Spirit of the Dog Rescue, Jenna Miller. It's really great to have you both. Thanks for being here.
Oh, thanks for having us.
Super. I'm going to tell people a little bit more about you, if that's all right, Richard, before we jump in. So,
yeah, sure.
Richard,
It's a bit strange. It depends what it is.
If you're not from Basildon or Billericay, you might not know Richard quite so well, but he was elected, first elected in 2019. And am I right in thinking you have been the Conservative MP for Basildon and Billericay since 2024? Am I right?
That's correct. Yep.
And you were the Shadow Secretary previously. Oh, just recently you've been appointed as the Shadow Secretary for State for Transport, which is exciting.
Yes, all about roads and buses and trains and planes and ships now.
And
yes.
Beautifully, if you're on YouTube right now, you'll see he's in a car, which is very appropriate. Well done, Richard. I love that.
Not driving. No,
he's a busy guy. And yeah, you've done lots of different things, haven't you, Richard? I can see from your parliamentary career that you really have a heart for justice. You led a campaign to ban hymenoplasty and so-called virginity testing, ick. And you've also been lowering the duty on draft beer. Appreciate that. Looking to
no problem.
You've cut vehicle exercise duty on motorhomes. Again, big fan. I used to have a motorhome. And you've expanded pension auto enrolment too. So you've done a great deal, and, looking at regulating gambling and improving mental health services. So you've been leading the campaign, Richard, to regulate rescues, an e-petition which has now had over 100,000 signatures. Very exciting.
Thank goodness. Yes.
I know. So how did that come to your attention? Why are you so passionate about it?
Well, so I grew up with dogs in my family. In fact, my family's first dog, which I grew up with, a dog called a lovely. We don't really know what she was, but she was what we called her Tess. And my dad had literally, in a very, was probably one of the things you might have done in the early 80s. We found her literally on the moors near our house. And she was all, she'd just been totally abandoned, was half starved. And he thought it was a wise idea to bring this dog home to his newborn child, me, and my mum, who I don't think was best impressed at the idea of having this. Who was having sleepless nights breastfeeding me, and then had this new dog there. Anyway, Tess became an absolute part of the family, and I remember we grew up with her, and then when after she suddenly died, when I was a young teenager, and then my youngest brother, he got a collie Alsatian cross, called Cookie, and she lived a very long time and died a couple of years ago, very similar to Tess, and So I had two dogs growing up, really, who were very much part of our family. Other members of the extended family also had dogs as well. My grandparents always had black Labradors, which, growing up in, sort of semi-rural countryside up in the Pennines, are always lovely,
Oh yeah,
out and
gorgeous
about.
dogs. Hmm.
Really, really lovely dogs. And so, yeah, and then representing Basildon and Billericay, we had an awful incident about about a year ago. Well, actually, slightly less than that. It was early this year, and in which an animal rescue centre had been set up, and um, and I can't go too much into the details of it really, because there's the ongoing court case. But needless to say, there was a lot of animals were later to have found to have died at this site, and um, and and I just thought, and having then spoken to a lot of people in the animal welfare sector, it became clear that actually across the country there have been issues around welfare centres and sanctuaries. And basically, you've got to be regulated and get a license if you're going to run a kennel. But you don't if you're going to run an animal rescue centre or a
Wow.
sanctuary, which is incredible, really. You've got to have a license if you're going to breed animals, but not if you've got dozens and dozens of them and you're calling yourself a rescue centre. And that really, and that just shocked me that we'd ended in this odd situation where people were able to set these things up. Potentially people pay them to take their animals off their hands as well in some circumstances. And then and then there's no form of regulation there at all to ensure the animals are being cared for or looked after, which with a kennel where you might leave your dog for a week or two as you're going on holiday, there is regulation there from local authorities, but not if you're handing it over forever, which just seemed to me to be
Bonkers.
totally the wrong way round. And then I found out that others were also campaigning in this space, and the petition was going forwards. So I put forwards a private members bill in Parliament to try and get the legislative change on it as well. And basically, what we really want to do is raise the issue properly up the agenda with the government. The government have said to me that they're going to bring forwards an animal welfare strategy later this year.
Amazing.
And I think the pressure that we're now applying in terms of the animal rescue centres, because this law has already been passed in Scotland a few years ago. They're looking to improve it now and tweak it. We should hopefully be able to pass a similar piece of legislation in England to look after us, but also learn from what's happened in Scotland as well, because obviously we can now make improvements based on the lessons that they've learned from implementing their own legislation. And, I think, over the last 2 years, we've seen a lot of positive things in this space. One of my colleagues, Rebecca Harris, is pushing forwards with Tuck's Law and the pets microchipping bill.
Super.
Selene Saxby, a former colleague of mine for the last election, was pushing forwards legislation around puppy smuggling. But, there's been a lot of positive moves in this area. And I just think that there's a lot more that we can do. And I'm really hoping that the government will now listen to the calls of me and campaigners from across the country. And, this isn't a party political thing, as it were.
No.
Although I'm a Conservative MP, we've got Labour government. This is, I think, something which animal lovers of all sides and all political parties can really get behind. And I just hope that the government don't forget about this, because there's an awful lot else going on. But this is important stuff that we just need to make sure gets right and gets sorted out.
It's super. It's really great. And it's, for me, I think the beginning of hopefully a landslide of moving towards regulation in across a number of industries,
Yes.
isn't it? It's quite shocking that we've got to the stage that we've got to, and so many professionals can work without anybody checking, nobody whistleblowing, nobody, when animal welfare is concerned, there really should be better checks that are put in place, I think. So what's next then, Richard? You were saying that, the government are considering this for their sort of strategy. What now we've got 100,000 signatures, there will be a debate in Parliament. Like, what can those who are behind this campaign wholeheartedly continue to do to support it, would you say?
Well, so just so you know, the debate isn't guaranteed. It means that it will definitely be considered for debate. So the first thing we can do is get more signatures. So
Okay, excellent.
I call it sign and share. So
Yes.
sign the petition and share it on your socials,
Come on.
basically, because we need as many as possible. Because I'm going to go in there and argue for this petition to be debated. I'm going to speak to the petitions committee about it and say, look, this is something which is really, it's a really big issue for my local community. In fact, I think 2,500 people in Basildon and Billericay have signed the petition.
Amazing.
I want to see that. I want to see more people signing it in every other part of the country as well. We've had really good pickup more broadly across Essex too. So I just want to see that really spread across the rest of the country. And I just want to see, because obviously, the debate itself, it's headlined about cats and dogs, but actually this is about animals across the piece. And there's been issues with horse sanctuaries before as well. I think we can really open this up, but we can only do that by getting the debate going, and that's why getting this debate in Parliament is going to be so important. I think it's going to be. I really do think we're in with a good chance of getting it as well, and because I think this is an issue which I think people from all sides of the political divide want to see. We want solutions in this space, and I think it's just also it's one of those things where, when you think about it logically, it's illogical that we don't have the regulation there at the moment.
Absolutely.
So let's move in the direction of getting these things sorted out.
And we've been promoting it as far as we can. Richard, I was at
Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's worth it. London Pet Show Live, we did it live on stage. We were talking about the petition, and again on Riverside Radio, we shared it there too, because I know we've all been very passionate about getting this across the line. So thank you so much. We know that you're super busy.
Signed.
Yeah, that's it. Jump in, guys. You can like and share and sign it right now, and keep it on the radar. This is the thing with politics, isn't it, Richard? We just have to keep shouting about the things that we care about to get things done. Would you say?
Honestly, I can't. That is exactly what you've got to do. You've got to keep going on it, because the truth is, in politics, somebody once said, events happen, events, right? Stuff happens. And so, things can get just pushed to the side, and then they get pushed to the side, delayed, forgotten about. We've got to keep it on the agenda. We've got to keep the pressure up there on the government. I'm not trying to pressurise the government to do something crazy. We're just going to pressurise the government not to forget about it while they're doing all sorts of other things. Like, I've been a government minister. I know it's tough, but we've just got to keep the pressure up, because we need to get this legislation out. Because I don't want any more dogs to go through what some of those dogs had to go through in my own constituency, right? There are dogs who had to have, who were so bad, they had to be put down. One dog, its eyes were so bad, it had to have his eyes removed when it was removed from this shelter. I do not want to have to say that to any of my constituents who sent their dogs into a rescue centre, believing that they were doing the right thing for them, that they've had to, that actually the outcome was the opposite of what they were hoping for ever again. We need to get licensing in there. And realistically as well, there's only a couple of hundred animal rescue centres, shelters and rescue centres in the country, right? This is not the biggest regulatory burden for local authorities, just to be able to nip by, see them apply for a licence, which will cost a couple of £100, right? And then a licensing officer nips by every year or so. But the key thing is, if there's any form of complaint, it means the reason licensing is so important. It's a bit like if you've got a licence and you're selling cigarettes or alcohol, right? It's very, very easy to get in there and check if you've got license conditions. It's much more difficult if you've not got license conditions. If you've not got license conditions, the police need proper reasonable doubt to enter a private premises. Yep. If you've got license conditions, any council official can walk in at any point and check up on you. That's the difference. And that's why it'll be a proactive step. Yes, you need to show that you're a good person to have a license, true, but any question of those license conditions being breached, and then the council can go in and check it up. You don't need to go through a court process to get there. And that's why this is such an important change, which I genuinely think all of the association of basically
Dog
animal
and
of
cats
kennels
homes, yeah.
and
Yeah.
dogs and cats homes
Yeah.
are already behind it. They already have a voluntary code. It's already there. Basically, we just want to put what the good ones do voluntarily
Yes.
into legislation
Come on.
for everybody.
Easy peasy. It makes so much sense, doesn't it? And it's not going to take that long either. It wouldn't be a difficult thing to legislate for, right? Am I right? It's a simple, tiny
You're
little bit of
absolutely
wording.
You're absolutely right. It would not be difficult, and that's why I really hope that the government doesn't try and gold plate everything on this, and doesn't say, look, we've got this animal welfare strategy. It's got to do everything all at once in one piece of legislation. I'm saying that there's lots of MPs from all sides, who would take forwards this. I've already got a private members bill basically ready to roll. Just let us push on with it. Because I think sometimes government can get a bit bogged down in wanting everything to be perfect. And I don't want, and also to be perfectly timed in the right perfect way. If they want to take the credit for this, absolutely fine. I don't care. I just want animals to be protected. I don't want any family, has had to be, many families in a difficult position of having to give up a family pet, maybe because of divorce or moving house, or maybe it's an elderly relative's pet who's gone into a rescue centre after they've gone into a home or died themselves. I don't want anybody who's doing that to ever have to have that doubt in the back of their mind. Is this the right thing to do for the animal? I want them to have confidence. Actually, that it is the right thing.
100%. Thank you so much, Richard. Not on our watch, right? Simple as that. Not on our watch.
Quite right.
And how would we continue to follow you, Richard, on socials? Can you give us your socials tag or where we
Sure,
find
yes.
out more
No,
about the
follow
campaign?
us on do follow me on Facebook, Richard #4 Basildon and Billericay, or follow me on Instagram. I do a bit on there, on Rick Holden 85, or follow me on Twitter, just Rick Holden without a K, RIC Holden. Now some of it's animal, some of it's not, but like the things you don't like. Sorry, like the things you do like, and ignore the things that don't interest you at all. Because as you said, I've done all sorts of stuff over the years. I do also, with them. Beer duty and motorhomes. If beer duty and motorhomes aren't your thing, that's fine. You can just like the cat stuff, right? That's okay. And Colin,
definitely my thing.
And Colin, who's been driving me today, he's got a cat and a dog. In fact, his girlfriend's got a dog and he's got 2 cats. So he's really behind my campaign as well. So it's one of those great things to have your members of staff as well. And Jackie, who works in my constituency office, she is like the biggest animal lover in the world, and so it's great. Honestly, this is also something. Sometimes, as an MP, your staff have to do things that are, or it's not necessarily what they got into politics for, or it might not be their biggest area of interest. But it's great that for Colin and Jackie in my constituency office, who do so much work for me behind the scenes and help out so many of my constituents on a daily basis, that they can be behind the big campaign that we're doing, which is just going to really genuinely change the lives of thousands, I think, of cats and dogs going forwards.
Hundreds of thousands, yeah. It's a no-brainer.
Yes, definitely.
Easy animal welfare win. Such a huge swathe of improvements. Richard, thank you so much. We know you're super busy, so we're going to let you go and
thank you so much.
Yeah, take care, Richard. Thanks for joining us.
Cheers.
Jenna, it's so good to see you.
Likewise, how have you been?
Really well, thank you, really well. So let me introduce you to the amazing Jenna Miller, ladies and gentlemen. Jenna is for me the cream of the crop when it comes to grassroots dog rescue. Jenna Miller was elected as chair of the board of trustees at registered charity Spirit of the Dog Rescue in 2020, and she's become one of the youngest trustees in the UK in 2018. Absolutely amazing. And then, you know what they say about trustees, Jenna, is they're trustworthy. That's it. You've got to trust them. So we're so happy to have her with us. Jenna, you've done 15 years in animal care and you've done educational roles, teaching work experience students about small animals and exotics. You've done veterinary assistance roles and residential kennel and cattery management positions too. You were a kennel hand for boarding dogs. You've worked with working police dogs and rescue dogs, council-bound strays, and dogs seized under sections 1 and 3 of the Dangerous Dogs Act in police contracted facilities. And you have over a decade of rescue experience. You've been working with small animals and wildlife, but predominantly dogs, at the largest dog welfare organisation in England and some of the smallest, in a variety of roles, including animal care and rehoming and adoptive vetting, volunteer recruitment, fundraising, administration and senior management. It really is such a massive job, isn't it, rescue? And now you assist expert witnesses as a handler during assessments for court cases, completing copious amounts of continuing professional development. You've got a fear-free certified handler status. You're a student with the Battersea Academy and the ISCP. And you've shadowed multiple highly regarded behaviour experts. And you're a big advocate for the work of the Association of Dog and Cat Homes. Jenna Miller, welcome to The Future of Dogs.
Well, thank you. That's quite the intro. Thanks.
I love reading bios. I just think, you know what, that is what you've done, and it's outstanding, and I think it should be celebrated. And it's a huge amount of work, Jenna. Every time we've bumped into each other, it's generally been at a conference, hasn't it? And you are often running around after, how many dogs would you say your rescue normally sort of manages day to day?
Well, what we like to say is quality of care over quantity of dogs. So we tend to keep it pretty small. The most we've had since I've taken over is 10 to 12 dogs. Super. And they have a wellbeing team. So we work on all the different aspects of their care, like a holistic approach for each individual dog, which takes a lot of time and work for each individual. But that's the way that I like to do things. I think it needs to be tailored to each dog. So we have a lot of dogs in our outreach schemes as well who are not up for adoption. So they probably are the bulk of our work. And then we have a really strong post-adoption support scheme for any dog who's been adopted from us as well. So Amazing. It's a bit of a broad range, and it's very different from when I was at a huge organisation with lots of dogs. But what I like to think of, Spirit of the Dog that I run now, I was very honoured to be asked to take over, and they've been running for 15 years before I joined. And what I did when I was given this opportunity was I decided to try and make it a bit of a prototype rescue, to try all the things that I wish that I could see when I worked for other organisations.
Amazing.
And there might have been red tape or reasons that people didn't want to try new things. So I like to sort of pilot different things that I always wondered would improve the way things run.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So usually, Jenna, we would ask our guests a what if question. So I wonder if you wanted to share your what if question. So what is your what if that could change the future of dogs?
It's hard to pick just one, isn't it?
I know. Everybody's
Does
problem.
It have to be
it's
just
true.
One?
You can give us one and let's see what happens. You never know.
Well, I made a bit of a note here. And this is what came to mind when I said what if to myself. What if we stopped calling dogs it? If we stopped seeing them as commodities? If we recognise that they're captive in our homes? If we see them for who they are, not what they can offer us? And if we recognise that the practices we inflict upon them are completely abhorrent, and we would feel that way if they were done to us. So I suppose it's a little bit of a mouthful there, but referring to dogs as it and seeing them as objects, I think is really not helping the whole situation. I think it means people can detach and they don't necessarily consider how would I feel if someone was doing this to me.
It's hard, isn't it? I think for a lot of people to look at dogs and rescue, it's heartbreaking. And it's one of those things, I've always had so much time for people who can do the frontline stuff. I know you and I have talked about this before, but I started in dog rescue after getting my degree, and I was short-lived there because I'll be brutally honest, I needed to fit smoke alarms. I couldn't fight fire, and so I've got so much time for anybody that has the grit and determination and is able to sort of maintain that level of compassion whilst fighting still, like to feel how each of these dogs are feeling whilst fighting for change. It honestly, I just take all of my hats off to you and to everybody that works in rescue, because it is really hard work.
It is a particularly difficult time. We're seeing more dogs needing to come in than ever. And we're also seeing far fewer adoptions than ever before. So we have a situation where let's just say, theoretically, I have 100 kennels. I could fill those 100 kennels in genuinely 2 or 3 days.
Wow.
Yeah, if I just said yes to every dog, I could fill 100 kennels in 2 or 3 days. It would then take a very long time for those dogs to start filtering into homes because there are fewer adoptions. So no matter how many kennels you've got, no matter how many dogs you're working with, there's always going to be hundreds more banging on the door. And that's a really hard pill to swallow, actually, that you can't help as many as you would like to. And you do feel like you just want to say, where is the tap? How can we switch off the tap? Rescues are not coping. No. So all of the kennels are gridlocked and no more can come in. The council pounds are obviously full. We could talk a bit more about council pounds if you wanted to, and what the difference is between a council pound and a rescue. Obviously, the strays go there. And they have 7 days to be claimed by their guardian, the person who's lost them. If they have been abandoned or no one claims them, they have to get a space at a rescue. And the rescues are full. So all of those dogs that don't get spaces in rescues, they're euthanized. It doesn't matter if they're friendly, if they're puppies, if they're cute. It doesn't matter who they are. If there's no space, there's no space. So there's a lot of people in our sector at the moment who are feeling very, very overwhelmed.
And that is so hard. Like, I think people underestimate how much it's a bit like, the doctor's surgeries get this a lot. And you hear receptionists on doctor's surgeries, some of them are nicer than others, but for the majority, I would say they sound pretty tired and a bit grumpy because I know they've had to spend the whole morning going, no, I'm really sorry, you can't have an appointment. Sorry, we're fully booked. Sorry, we're fully booked. And how much of your day, you just said it, Jenna, you could feel like if you've only got 10 kennels, that means that you're saying 90 no's over 2 days. And that must be so hard. Like, how do you deal with that on a day-to-day basis personally?
It is really tricky, and it's not just having to turn the dogs away. It's what these people are saying. It will be, a lot of people say, well, if you can't take my dog, I will have them killed. And sometimes people threaten to do that in a non-humane way if they can't afford euthanasia. I've had people say to me, I'm going to throw my dog in a river. I'm going to harm or take my own life after I've taken my dogs. Like, some of the people that call are in such desperate situations. And really they feel like their children are at risk, or there's something huge going on for them. So it does take a huge emotional toll.
And then understandably, a lot of people can take advantage of that, right? It's not surprising then that you actually get places that are setting up to take on board rescue dogs because people are desperate. And I'm sure this isn't the case for all of them. I'm sure some of them are just genuinely hoarding situations that have gone a bit wrong, would you say? But I mean, what has been your experience of the sort of the horrors, I suppose, of unregulated rescue? Like, what are we talking about here, Jen? And what do we know is happening? And what do we want to prevent happening in the future?
Well, I would say there's a kind of a sliding scale. You've got people who are very well-meaning, who really want to help, who don't really understand what doing it responsibly means. They might just be starting up on their own without prior experience. They might have learned from somebody who is pet peddling or is a pop-up rescue.
What's pet peddling? Just throw that out for us, Jenna.
Pet peddling is the act of selling dogs for a profit. So you might say to me, you might phone up and say, Jenna, I've got this Labrador here. I need to rehome my Labrador. Please, can you help? So a rescue will take in the dog. They will do lots of assessments. They'll find out all about the dog. They'll then make sure that they're neutered, vaccinated, health checked. They will select a suitable home. They'll do lots of vetting. They'll do meet and greets and a matching process and make sure that pairing is right. They'll offer support, and they will offer rescue backup for life, which means if that animal ever needs help in the future, if people can't look after them anymore, you can phone the rescue, they will take them back. That's the responsibility that they have. A pet peddler, and they can pose as a rescue, and you can phone them and they'll say, yeah, we'll help your Labrador. Send us a photo. They can go onto Facebook. They can post a picture. This is Max the Labrador. Max is great with kids, really friendly, all of these things. Come and adopt Max. Someone will ring up, take this dog home, and most likely in these situations a transporter will be paid to collect Max from his home and take him to his new home. So the people who run the rescue have never met Max.
Wow.
They don't know him, he's never seen a vet, they're not bothered if he's neutered.
Gosh.
And they've never assessed him. So this is just, I mean, I'm just using a generic name right now. This is not any particular dog, but it's a very common situation. What's happening is, where rescues are so full, people are calling us saying we've spoken to over 150 rescues and we can't get in anywhere. So when they start ringing up their rescues saying, I've got this Labrador called Max, he's mauled my child, he's always trying to kill my neighbours, he can't deal with strangers, he's having a really terrible time, he resource guards, he's punctured my hand, he put me in hospital. And the rescues say, I'm sorry, we don't have room for sort of easier to rehome dogs, we certainly don't have room for rehabilitation spaces for poor Max. They start to realise, I'm not going to get help. No one's coming to help me if I tell them that I'm in desperate need. So the public, they do start lying. They're desperate. They can't afford £300, £400 euthanasia, and they don't really have any other options. So that's when they start saying, oh yeah, Max, he loves kids. Yeah, he's really friendly. He's fine. He's never had an issue with anybody. And these things are not Max's fault, but then the pet peddler who takes that person's word for it then takes Max, puts him in a home with little kids, someone's nan, and people that are maybe novice dog guardians.
Yeah, so dangerous.
And then when everything's horribly wrong and things are really dangerous, they say, rescue backup who? I'm out of here. They'll block people's numbers. So this is pet peddling. This is not a great situation. Right. This is basically selling dogs for money and being a middleman in a sales process. And then you've got your pop-up rescues, who I tend to think of as a well-meaning individual who wants to help, who can see that all the rescues are full and they think, I can do a better job. I can find these homes online. I can go pop round someone's house and do a home check. I can do that. I can visit them in their home and I can go and take them to a new home. And sometimes these people, they get very enthusiastic and they start moving hundreds of dogs around. And then, these dogs are bouncing because actually they don't have any professional background and they don't realise really how in-depth this process is. They don't realise that it's a honed skill over years and years and years. Yeah. And also, at any time, things can go wrong. We're dealing with people, we're dealing with animals who act in ways that you don't expect. And there's always things that are going to pop up in day-to-day life that are unexpected. Anything can happen at any time. So we're dealing with a lot of unknown factors here. And I think the very least that we can be doing is making sure that we're following procedure as best as possible and keeping everybody safe. So these pop-up rescues, what they do is they'll start very enthusiastic, they're moving dogs around, then they get overwhelmed. They run out of money. They go, okay, this isn't what I thought, I'm going to step away, because they've popped up out of nowhere and they've popped away out of nowhere. And then the remaining rescues and the responsible rescues are getting these phone calls. I took this dog from this person, and they're not operating anymore. And there's nowhere for this dog to go back to. Can you help? And then we start getting phone calls and it's all the same names. Yep. Got the dog from this person, got the dog from this person. And all of these people, they appear to be rescues, and what happens is it makes members of the public, when they have a bad interaction, it makes them think, don't trust animal rescues, because my neighbour got a dog from an animal rescue and he wasn't assessed, he wasn't as described, they didn't help when things went wrong, and that gives rescues a bad name, when in actual fact, like, the responsible rescues are the ones that are stepping in, the ones that are trying to help, the ones that are keeping everybody safe and are working to the right, they're all singing off the same hymn sheet.
And I think it's fair to say, a lot of people would say it's a common song that it's hard to get a dog from rescue. I was hanging out with the RSPCA recently at the Amazon Dog Festival, Amazon Pet Fest even, and we were talking about how hard it is to get a rescue dog. That's a common sort of public perception, and that is exactly for that reason, right? Because it's not easy to, first of all, rehome the dogs that are currently in rescue, because they have more behavioural issues than dogs have had for a long time. Actually, we are in a season where our dogs are a lot more stressed and there are a lot more obvious behaviour problems, more complicated behaviour needs in dogs in rescue, and exactly that, there've been so many people who have just tried to get dogs and then they've bounced, or there've just been so many dogs that actually rescues are a lot more cautious. And then they get burned by going to a less qualified rescue and getting a rescue dog from there. It's really, really hard. It's the same with dog trainers. We, as an unregulated industry, where do you go if your dog trainer took your money and arguably abused your dog in the way that they train them? Who do you go to talk to about that? It's really, really not okay. It's something that we need to change desperately quickly. So for you, Jenna, obviously you've been working on a grassroots, smaller rescue, looking at quality and not quantity. What would you like to see change? What would regulation look like, practically speaking, do you think?
Well, I think that I do really like the way that the Association of Dogs and Cats Homes assessed us. So this is something that I really wanted. I really wanted that badge of approval from the Association of Dogs and Cats Homes to show that we really care about what we do and we care about getting things right. Yeah. My early experiences in rescue were, I got a job at, can we mention names? Dogs Trust.
Sure.
So what I was seeing there was a big shiny centre, lots of money behind it, lots of thought and care behind the process. And just before I actually started that job, I wanted to get some more experience in the rescue sector and started volunteering at an independent rescue, which turned out to be basically a pet peddling operation with a lot more sinister undertones. Yeah. And that sort of spectrum of pet peddling, like, there are some really sinister things that go on.
That's true. I remember in the rescue that I helped out with in Wales that one of the dogs was being kept intentionally like skinny, and another dog was being kept without veterinary aid because it actually got them more donations from the public as like a welfare care. It was horrendous. Like we really need to be able to spot, and same with actually like overseas rescues. There is a huge issue with Romanian rescue centres that are actively, unfortunately, hurting dogs or breeding bad dogs or collecting dogs to sell to us as the UK as rescue dogs, because we love to help. We just have such a heart for sort of broken animals in some ways. It's a kind of badge of honour to be like, I rescued this really broken dog. And so darker people in the world are like, well, let me show you a really broken dog. And that is a problem, a massive problem.
That is so true. And I think witnessing that, it really gave me a passion and a fire to, it's great to work for an organisation who's got it all. But when I opened my eyes to what was going on in other areas of the sector, actually, it made me really passionate and I wanted change. I'm talking 10 years ago now, but I noticed members of our local community, they didn't want to engage with rescues anymore. They'd been stung by this organisation. And so I really wanted, when I was in a position to run an organisation, to have the Association of Dogs and Cats Homes accreditation to show that it's really not that difficult to do. We had assessments and I didn't change anything we were doing. I presented our way of working as it was. We meet every single criteria 100%. We got 100% across the board.
Well done, Jenna.
Of course, I was so proud of that and so proud of the team because we worked really hard to make the welfare as high as possible. But it just goes to show we didn't have to change a single thing. But if you're a rescue that's concerned about what regulation is going to mean for you, I think it's really important to open up that dialogue with ADCH because they understand the nuance in rescue. They understand that there's different sorts of rescues and different ways to do things well. And there's absolutely not something they want to do to be telling people, no, you can't come in, you're not good enough. What they want to do is raise the standards for everyone and have everyone come in.
And that makes sense, doesn't it? That you don't want to control too much what people do. You want really good standards, but the more people that are happy to help, the better. Amazing. There's lots of dogs and cats that need rehoming. So it makes sense to say, actually, we want to have lots of other people regulated underneath those regulations. That is so good, Jenna. And so what has that meant for you in terms of practice? You haven't changed anything, but what kinds of things do you think rescues of the future are going to be asked to sort of raise their bar to? What were you doing? Give me some great practices that you'd like to see rolled out for lots of other rescue centres.
I think just having the right policies and procedures, having a backup plan for your dogs. So I'm just going to flick through here. I've got in front of me my just the slides from the talk I did in Parliament, because it kind of just encompasses everything, and I think it's good to just sort of skip through it.
For those that didn't make that talk, so Jenna presented at the State of UK Rescue a app dog meeting, so the APPG for dog welfare. We have a meeting every year about the state of UK Rescue because it's an ongoing, continuous issue, something that we all need to be keeping a close eye on and making sure that we're supporting our rescues where we can. I know that many presenters brought some really great solutions, including preventative care, so things like dog food banks and really building the networks between the rescues so that the big rescues can support smaller ones, and there could be a much more sort of joined up approach. But Jenna presented an amazing presentation. So yeah, Jenna, tell us more about what you brought to Parliament.
So there's just lots of different types of organisations under the rescue sort of umbrella. So when people are ringing up saying to me, I need a rescue space for my dog, what I'm thinking, these are the sort of some of the categories, right, that we might want to look at. So obviously with the council pounds are not rescues. Council pounds are taken in the strays, like we discussed. A rehoming centre may not identify as a rescue. So a rehoming centre may just be taking dogs with a very high adoptability rate, not needing any rehab, not needing expensive medical bills. If your dog's not bomb-proof, they're not getting into a rehoming centre. Okay. And, that's fine. They do well at what they do. So no shade. A breed-specific rescue is a rescue who will, as described, they'll focus on a specific breed. They may or may not assist crossbreeds, depending on what they want to do. Mm-hmm. Some of them will help any dog of that breed, regardless of what they need. And some of them have limits in terms of behaviour and medical needs. So some people will call it cherry picking, but you'll know that this breed-specific rescue will take your crossbred dog with one leg. And the other one will only take, maybe pedigree ones who don't have behaviour problems. So there's sections within that as well. You've got rescues that are mixed. They'll take different breeds, like Spirit of the Dog, like what we do. We'll take different sorts of dogs. And, you sort of establish your limits and you work with other rescues when they have a good setup for a dog. You can say, well, actually, that dog will fit much better within the specific model of this organisation. Everyone's doing things a bit differently. Mm-hmm. You've got medical needs specific dogs, such as Florrie's friends, who also spoke, and Natalia also spoke at that meeting. Yeah. You've got behaviour specific rescues, bite history specialists, rehabs, working dog specialists. So you've got these sorts of different specialisms. And then within that, you've got rescues who work from their own home. A lot of people, when you think rescue, you think premises, you think kennels, you think a place that you can go to. Yeah. A rescue may not necessarily be a place. In some cases, a rescue is a Facebook page. Wow. It is a person's house. Mm-hmm. It's really not what people necessarily expect. So when we're talking about foster-based rescues, I think that there is a place for foster-based rescues where there's no kennels, dogs go into foster homes. However, I strongly believe that if you're going to run a foster-based rescue, you need to still have a premises, if you've got your home, that's a large home, that you've got land, that you've got backup kennels. If you need it, you need a plan B and you need a plan C. What we cannot be doing is taking the member of the public's word for a dog's behavior. Temperament. Yeah, temperament. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And because obviously that can change in a new environment, it can completely throw them. We're not talking about robots here, we're talking about dogs. Mm-hmm. So we need to be able to integrate a dog into their new home. But I really think that the best foster-based rescues can take the dogs into their own home first, get to know them, they can take them back into their home. And they're doing this in a way that hasn't become a hoarding situation, because there's a line there between a good foster-based rescue that works from their own home and a hoarding situation who's pet peddling dogs. There's a line. And it's finding that line and regulating that line. So you've got people who own their own kennel site, which is it's brilliant because you're there to oversee the daily care of the dogs. You're getting to know your own dogs, and they're all on site. And when it's done well, it's done really well. The benefit is the long-term security for those dogs and a safe place to always come back to. However, there have been cases of very serious neglect on owned sites that have been hidden for a very long time. They've gone unnoticed, they've gone hidden. And because, what Richard was saying about you can't just walk into a private premises, a lot of the time, the RSPCA can't really do much about that. And it's not regulated like a boarding kennel, like he said. You've also got rescues who will rent kennels. So you would rent a licensed boarding kennel. So us at Spirit of the Dog, the aim was to get land and raise enough money for a purpose-built rehab centre, which would then be our own premises. As it stands, and what we've been doing for the last 20 years is working with licensed established boarding kennels who are happy to work with us, happy for myself, volunteers to go in, work with the dogs, the behaviourist to come down. We want staff who are really enthusiastic, want to go over and above to help the dogs. We want them to get involved in the training and wellbeing plan, contribute to them, let us know what's going on whenever we're not there. And that can be a really fantastic way to work. So we use some foster homes, but we always have this backup kennel option and kennels that really want to work with us. And that's worked really well for us so far. However, there are rescues who use EB, which is emergency boarding, and they never visit their dogs. So some of the premises that I've worked from, there's been dogs there from other organisations who have been there for 2 years or more. The owner of the rescue's never met that dog. No one from the rescue's ever visited that dog.
Oh my goodness.
And when you go on their social media, they've got 1 or 2 old photos that they just circulate every now and again and just remind people the dog's still up for adoption and no one's been there. So there's a line, you're using registered facilities and you're using licensed facilities and the dogs are safe, they're fed, watered, roof over their head, but how is their welfare? Is anyone actually coming in, working with them, getting them out, making sure that their world is not a
just
concrete box?
Sure.
Yes.
And because also,
if
you think about assessments, I know I was the training and behavioural advisor at the rescue centre that I worked at, I should say. And so a part of that job was to temperament assess a dog. And it doesn't make sense, does it? If you've temperament assessed a dog, even if they've done the temperament assessment, say, at the beginning of getting the dog into kennels, if you've left it in a kennel block for 2 years and really not done anything to improve its welfare, that's not the same dog. We see this a lot with dogs who've been seized, unfortunately, by police, and a year later, it's a very different dog because they haven't been handled because, for example, that dog went to bite a police officer or was told, someone said that it went to bite a police officer and actually that didn't happen. But so nobody handles the dog and it just stays and languishes in a kennel. It's really not okay. And I know it was a constant conversation that we had when looking at, dogs that were, say, maybe sponsor dogs who were a little harder to rehome, but we were giving them the best life that we could do in kennels. It's a really, really difficult conversation as what is welfare? What is the best for this particular animal? Is feeding it and walking it once a day in a kennel, is that enough for, a complex social species? When does that become a point of us actually just not loving that dog particularly well if it's not getting anything more than its really basic needs met? It's amazing, Jenna, what you do. It's amazing and shocking to see that there is such a huge difference. And so what do you do in situations like that? Do you find that you end up talking to those rescue centres, or are you just collecting all of that information in your head and going, none of this is fair?
Which situation specifically, like when things are going wrong?
If you went to a boarding kennels and you saw that actually there were loads of dogs next to the dogs that you were working with that in theory were being looked after by rescues but had never seen any of the people who work there, what do you do?
I work with them myself. Like a lot of the time I'll start getting them out and working with them because I know they don't have anyone else. But I have actually got other rescues backs up that way because they don't like to be seen to not be. And some of them as well, they will sort of tell the kennel staff, oh, you're on our team, they'll give them like a job title within the rescue. But to me, that's just an excuse not to go out and see your dog. And you're just putting more work on an already overworked kennel assistant who has got lots of other dogs to deal with. It's tricky. It's really hard, because then a lot of people will argue, well, we've got that dog out of the pound and now they've got a chance, and it's really tricky. When it comes to misconduct, when it comes to neglect, when it comes to more serious situations, at the moment, rescue is kind of self-policed. And it absolutely blows people's minds when they come into the rescue sector, especially the independent rescue sector. Although the larger organisations, although they won't comment, they sometimes get dragged into conversations. Here's what happens, right? There's lots of independent rescues that do really good work, that are very respectable, and that I really look up to. And then there's a lot of this sort of people on the rest of the spectrum, because there's no one to guide them and there's no one to stop anything that's going wrong. So what happens is you'll get a Facebook group pop up, and it will be called the Warning Exchange for Rescues. And someone will go on there and say, I've noticed this is a problem. They'll present their evidence and to like Facebook court, essentially. And then there'll be an argument about whether that's okay or not. Then you'll have another Facebook group pop up, the Real Warning Exchange, and there'll be rebuttals on there. And then it will get very bitchy, and it will get very non-dog centered, and then it gets personal, and then it gets nasty. And then there'll be another group that pops up, Animal Associated Warnings or something like that. And then there'll be one called Animal Associated Warnings, the Truth. And it will be a this is what's going on, and it's like playground. And this incident that's happened in Billericay, Staverpool, where 41 dogs were found dead on this guy's premises, where he was acting as a rescue and doing God knows what to those poor animals. People were flagging him up. People were flagging him up in these groups saying, please listen to me. Something is going on here. There's something wrong with this guy. There's something wrong with this situation. They were shouting. And then you've got these people going, oh, but you're just this. You just think, what are you doing to help the situation? And no one was taking them seriously. And I was sitting back and looking, and we were all responsible rescues looking, saying there's definitely a big problem here. And people are reporting things to the RSPCA. They're trying to get in there themselves. They're trying to do something. And it took way too long for authorities to act on that case. And all of those dogs had been tortured and killed. And there's more that's gone on there than we know about, and more than we can speak about because of the ongoing court case. But there's lots of things like this. And since the petition to regulate rescues has started, there's been at least 6 rogue rescues who have been exposed.
Amazing.
And have been caught out. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. There's so many of these people, and there's a lot of sort of criminal gangs and criminal operations and unscrupulous people who are taking advantage of the fact that people are so desperate for somewhere for their dog to go. This particular person, he was telling people, I rehab dogs, I'm a behaviourist, I've got kennels in my garden, I'll take care of them, I'll give them a chance at a future. And these people who love these dogs but can't manage them, maybe they've come across, like you touched on before, a dog trainer, again, not regulated, someone with no qualifications, someone who thinks it's okay to use aversives, put prong collars, e-collars on these dogs. Maybe they were already struggling and trying to communicate through their behaviour that they were having big feelings, that they were in pain. Maybe that dog's got a trapped nerve in their neck or a sore back, and all of a sudden this trainer's yanking them up on a slip lead or a prong, and that dog's then escalated. And you've got someone on the phone who loved that dog, who really wanted to do best by them, who reached out to a trainer, who thought this person was going to help them, and has then caused a massive bite incident at home. So these people, they do love their dogs. Sometimes they've got children, sometimes they're sick, sometimes they're really, really desperate, and they will do anything to give that dog a chance. And I think these criminal gangs and unscrupulous people, people that want to breed dogs, people that want to fight with dogs, people that want to do all sorts of things, they take advantage of that. And, maybe, just maybe, if there was more hoops to jump through, they might look at it and think, that's not worth it.
It's not worth it,
There's always going to be people, that will pursue it. There's always going to be, like you said, people that murder, people that speed, no matter what the laws are.
Of course, But it's no excuse to say, well, people will still break the law, because we still need the law there. People often say that when we go to change the law, but yeah, exactly.
And I think as well, if there's regulation, the well-meaning people who think, oh, I want to start a dog rescue, if they're then presented with this manual, And they'll look through it and they'll think, oh, well, I didn't think of that. And I didn't think of this. And actually, oh, that's a good point. I don't think I'd be able to do that. It might just prevent them from getting in a situation. Like a lady phoned me last year and I'd seen her around. I'd seen her offering on dogs. And she said, we deal with working dogs and we import from abroad. And she was, adamant. She'd asked to take on a dog that I'd posted for Rescue Space. And what that means is someone's called up, asked if I could take a dog. I can't. So I post them on my Facebook with the hope that a rescue colleague that I trust will say, oh, I've got room. So I put it up. This lady's seen it. She said to me, I'll take that dog. And I said, look, I appreciate that. But you've only sort of been running a year or so. There's no longevity in your rescue yet. We don't know whether you're going to be able to provide lifelong backup for that dog if you're still going to be around in 5 years. And we don't really know enough about you and your methods, for me to confidently send a dog your way. But, in the future, please sort of get back to me if you're more established. A year or so later, this woman phones me. She says, my team have left. I've run out of funds. I think she had something like 30 dogs, which are high drive working dogs, Belgian Shepherd and terrified Romanian street dogs, all caged up in her house. So she was completely by herself.
Oh my God.
Rotating and rotating all these dogs. They were trying to attack each other, going at each other through the bars, mentally shutting down. And she started as a well-meaning person who was like, yeah, I'm great with dogs. I'll help. And she had this enthusiastic team. And as soon as the going got tough, everyone left.
Yeah.
She didn't have the support and she was left in a very dangerous situation and she was begging other rescues to help. And this is not uncommon. No. So I think if people who wanted to start had a bit of a blueprint to go off of and they realise really how in depth and what it involves, what I would like to see is people that feel this passionately joining up with established rescues who are already desperately needing more volunteers, desperately needing more resources and more fundraising, and sort of join forces rather than try and sort of spread in the resources even more thinly and then ultimately causing even more work for the already overstretched established rescues.
Amazing, Jenna. And we're on the cusp of actually some real change in this area. I can see. We're gonna keep pressure on. I know I'm backing you guys. We're all backing you with this campaign. So what could you leave us with a last takeaway, Jenna, for our listeners who are just absolutely now on the edge of their seat thinking, I want to change this. I want to do something to improve this situation. I don't know much about much, but I want to do something. Like, what can we do to continue to support this campaign?
I think, like Richard said, while that petition is up, please keep signing it, because the more people that are visibly putting their hands up and saying, I care about this, then the better, of course. I think definitely follow along with AppDog, attend the meetings if you can, sign up for their newsletters as well, keep up to date with what's happening, support your local organisations who are, especially, the thing is, there's some really wonderful rescue organisations who are not ADCH registered as of yet, okay? But the ones, if you don't have one that you support yet, if choosing one off the list will give you some peace of mind, I think.
They really need that funding, don't they, right now, Jenna? Because the cost of living crisis has just affected everybody, and we've definitely seen a massive reduction, haven't we, in donations toward rescue centres. So if that is something,
and I just think if you've got a dog at home and you're thinking about breeding them, please just don't do it. Don't do it. We've got so many people ringing up breeders or accidental litters who can't sell or rehome those puppies that are desperate to get newborn litters into rescues, and there's not spaces for them.
Oh my goodness.
So please don't breed your dogs. If you need help with your dog, we need to prevent your dog coming into rescue. If you seek help from a trainer and find that trainer is offering you grots, e-collars, prong collars, please back away as quickly as you can and find someone who's an accredited clinical animal behaviourist. Or you could probably you'd probably be better to explain some of the websites they can go to find professionals. But I think we need to support each other.
Absolutely.
We need to support rescues. We need to do everything we can to prevent dogs ending up in rescues in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah, loving on each other a lot more, doing that extra bit of research before you get a dog, folks. Like, it's the most important thing, making sure that you're ready to get a dog and then doing the research and remembering that this is 15 years and it is going to change your life. And thinking really carefully about that, specifically if you're in rental right now. It's super hard, but I rent still at the ripe age of 38. I'm still renting, and it's hard to do with a dog. If you need to move from A to B, you know, it really does limit your options of places that you can rent. Hopefully, we'd like to see that improved over time, but just really think about your circumstances, whether it's affordable for you. And yeah, there's so many great rescue centres out there that are desperate to meet you. And also, maybe perhaps if you are thinking of fostering, go and look into that. Maybe you know that you have got a season where you could help a dog, but actually it's not something you could do long term. You might be an amazing fosterer. So do get in contact with your local rescue and see if you can support them in that too.
And I think don't get so desperate to bring a dog into your life that you cut corners on how you do that. If you're going to a rescue organisation and they're trying to give you a dog too quickly, or they're not asking you many questions, it is a red flag.
Yep.
You need to be asking, what is your rescue backup policy? And specifically, what does that look like? Not just, will you take a dog back, but when will you take the dog back? Do you have a kennel open for any returned dogs? Do you have a foster carer for the dog who's going to be in my home to specifically go back to? Because what a lot of people are doing now, they're just sort of posting a picture of the dog up, waiting for the next member of the public to offer and taking them straight there. And if no one offers, when people are saying, oh, I'm not coping, or this, you know, whatever reason, these sort of organisations that don't really have all their ducks in a row, they're not able to come and get that dog. And
it's scary. It's
so
scary. I've seen dogs
I think
handed over out the back of a truck at a petrol station regularly, because I live in Kent, and every time I see it, I sort of stop the family and go, how are you? Are you okay? And they're like, oh, this dog smells a lot, and are they going to be okay to get back in the car? Like, they really don't want to get in the car. And I'm like, no, they've been travelling for probably 5 hours overseas. And so, yeah, it's hard. It's really hard. And for most of those people, if they have any problems, that rescue is not going to support them anymore. So just a particular warning, folks, about rescuing dogs from overseas. There are some amazing overseas rescues. But yeah, it's one of those things. If you can't see them, if you can't meet them, you can't see where they're being rescued or what that organisation is like. Sometimes we really are just paying into quite a corrupt system that is happening in other countries. So, Jenna, thank you so much for your time.
On the overseas rescues, people shouldn't be dropping dogs off to your door. I think if anyone's going to be importing dogs, they need to have a safe place in the UK for them, a premises where they can come, decompress. And then you can go and meet them there. I know if you want to see an example of how it's done really well, please go and look up Rushden Rescue. They're not currently importing anymore. They did do lots of overseas projects. They're now at the point where they're saying, you know, the need in this country is so dire that we can't bring dogs over right now. But when they were doing that, they were bringing the dogs onto what they call Freedom Farm, which is basically almost a kennel-free setup where the dogs have 15 acres to roam. They are able to meet the people, bond with them. Rescue owners themselves take the dogs to the home, help them settle in. They're there for anything you need. That's what people should be doing. If you're going to do it right.
100%.
So I think that's a really great example of how to do it responsibly.
Well done. Amazing. Thank you, Jenna. That's really, really good knowledge. So yeah, check those guys out. And Jenna, where could we find out more about you if we wanted to follow you and support the hard work that you put into Spirit of the Dog Rescue?
I guess just type in Spirit of the Dog Rescue on social media. I've had a brief social media hiatus. The work has been very much happening. So yeah, I've got a lot of videos to edit and content to put out to explain what's been going on in this very exciting time. We're doing a full restructure at the moment, which is great. So yeah, jump on, have a look, and then just keep an eye out for any updates. And if there's anything that I see that would be great for people to get on board with to help with this regulation stuff, then I'll post it, and I'll reshare from anyone else who's got that sort of content on their pages.
Amazing, Jenna. You are a voice for so many independent rescues who are working really, really hard and get very little thanks for all of the hard work that you put in. So just, on behalf of me and all of the listeners on the Future of Dogs, we love you and we thank you for all of your hard work. And we hope to see the future of dog rescue improving in the not too distant future with the help and support of all of our listeners. So thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. That was good.
And that's all for another episode of The Future of Dogs. Big thanks to our sponsor, Amplified Behaviour. Your host and producer is Hannah Molloy. Technical direction, audio and video producer is Mark Goslett. And the graphic designer is James Whipps.